Hello everyone, and welcome to today's broadcast. We will get started in just a few moments. It'd be great to kind of give people a few minutes to dial in and join us today. Just in the meantime, you should see for everybody on the line, on the control panel you should see on your screen, there's a tab that says questions. If you could just type in there while you're dialing in, it's great for us to know where people are dialing in from. So if you can pop in that question box where you're dialing in from today, it'd be great to give us a bit more background on who's on the line. We've got a couple of the big cities, Sandy. So obviously Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. So we've got a lot of Bateman's Bay.
Tell me there's someone there from Palm Cove or the Whitsundays or something.
Yeah. We'd all be very jealous, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Melbourne again, Darwin, Perth, Melbourne. They're looking forward to the webinar. Awesome. So we've got a nice mix, Sandy. We've got a mix, I think, of a few rural, a few urban, and all across Australia as well.
Right. That's wonderful. And I just always feel honoured that people have made the time in their day to attend something like this, because I will make it worthwhile. It's an important subject. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we've got a lot of people on the line now, so we'll get going. So welcome everyone to this very special broadcast. I'm Holly Baldwin from Informa Corporate Learning, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Sandy Givens, who's going to give some time to talk to us about managing mental health in the workplace. I'm lucky enough to have worked with Sandy for a number of years now. But in the last couple of months, I've become aware of her kind of passion for reducing stigma and supporting people with mental health, in the community and in the workplace. Sandy's hugely qualified to be kind of talking to us on this subject today, both through her mental health first aid training and also her work with Beyond Blue. I know she's really, really passionate about kind of helping people communicate with courage, and there's probably no other subject that this becomes kind of more pertinent than mental health. So welcome, Sandy.
Thanks, Holly. Lovely talking to you, as always. And I just feel really grateful for the opportunity to share some information on this important subject with so many people that we've got on the line now.
Yeah, definitely. And just before we actually get going into the main content, for everyone on the line, it'll probably last for about 30 minutes. After that, Sandy will address some questions and answers and do some Q&A with us. So please do use that questions box as we go along to type in any questions and queries you may have. And we'll try and address as many as we possibly can at the end of the broadcast. We'll also be launching some polls, and it'd be great if you can get involved and make it interactive. It always helps for us as well to know thoughts and feedback. So please do get involved when the polls come around. So I guess to get started, Sandy, a really good place, I think, would be, you are so passionate about mental health. Why is that?
Lots of reasons, Holly. And the first one that I'm going to share with everybody is actually quite a sad story, but still an important story. My brother, sadly, many years ago, decided to end his own life. And at the time I was 20 and he was 25. It devastated our family for a very long time. And in fact, I sometimes think my parents never fully healed from that experience. We were full of guilt, excuse me, full of guilt about what did we do, done or say that we shouldn't have said, or vice versa. What didn't we say or do that we should have? And just endless questions that can torment you for a very long time. Then I had a wonderful event in my life in 1994 when my son was born, and I ended up with quite severe postnatal depression, severe to the point that I was hospitalized for 4 months. So quite a long journey for me. And more recently in my life, some of the events that have occurred have left me dealing with anxiety and depression as well. So yeah, I'm very passionate about this. And while you talk, I'll have a glass of water.
No worries. So Sandy, I know that when you're looking at all this, you've done a lot of research into this topic, and it's kind of highlighted the extent of mental health across the community. Am I right in kind of saying that?
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to be going through a lot of slides here, Holly. So I think if you and I turn our webcams off until we get to some Q&A, it might be helpful in terms of just transmission speed. So I'm going to turn my webcam off now. Let me make sure I click on the right thing. Okay, so it should be off now. So yes, your question about what I've discovered over the years of my research, I confess that I was quite surprised at many things I learned. And I want to share that information with people on the line. But before I do, Holly, I think it would be great to find out what people on the line currently know about the state of mental health in Australia. So we'll bring up some polls. Just while you get that first one organised, I'll explain to people. We have 3 polls which will ask you questions. They're totally anonymous. We won't know who says what, but we want to, it'd be good to have an idea of what you're aware of at this stage. We'll do 3 polls and then we'll close them. And we're going to reveal the results one by one. Remember, they're anonymous. So this first poll you're looking at now says, what percentage of employees currently have a diagnosed mental health condition? So that we're talking about in Australia, what percentage of employees currently are working with a diagnosed mental health condition? So Holly, I'm going to let you take over now from this point, and because you can see how many people have voted and when we can close the polls, etc. Okay.
Sort of 10 to 15 seconds or so. We've still got a few coming in. Yeah, still got a few. It's quite a mix there, Sandy. So when we do get to launch results, there's definitely lots of talking points on this one.
Okay, excellent. And I'm sure people will remember they're totally anonymous. We don't know who's saying what.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we'll give it 5 more seconds, then we'll move on to the next question.
Right.
So yes, if you want to actually move on to the next poll. So yeah, we're going to launch the next poll now.
Yeah, now the next poll is asking you to think about how many people in Australia are currently suffering from anxiety. What number of people in Australia today are still suffering from anxiety? Again, over to you, Holly. You can see the results coming in.
Yeah, just looking even at that, you know, the lowest figure there, just knowing the population of Australia being what, just over 25 million, even that 500,000 one there is a huge number. So that's definitely taken me by surprise. So yeah, we'll give people another kind of 20 seconds on this one. Again, we've got about 85% of people voted. So thanks for everyone on the line for getting involved with this one. Okay, perfect. We're going to move on to the third poll now.
And the third poll is asking what percentage of Australians will be diagnosed with a mental health condition at some point in their life. And these facts that I'll be sharing with you are all based on solid research. So what percentage of Australians will be diagnosed with a mental health condition at some point in their life?
Okay, so yeah, we'll give again about another 20 seconds on this one. We've got the vast majority have already voted. A lot of them, Sandy, have got a real split going on. We've obviously got a lot of variation on the line, which is great. It's always fantastic to see people's, you know, differing thoughts on this, and there's going to be lots of talking points for you, I can see.
That's good. Well, perhaps we should get on to that, see the results of the first poll then, Holly.
Yeah, we will do.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're just sharing the results of the first poll.
All right. Okay, and I'm just making it big enough to see on my screen. Okay, so this is the percentage of employees currently diagnosed with mental health condition. The biggest vote is for 20%. So those people who said 20% are actually correct. Notice a lot, we've got it spread across all different options that we offered there. If you can close that poll, and I'll reveal my slide. So exactly as I said there, poor mental health is likely to affect 1 in 5 employees, so that is 20%. What I'd encourage people to do who are with us today is to spend some time this afternoon looking around your workplace and think who might actually be struggling in some way and not telling anyone. Someone who's dealing with poor concentration, reduced memory, high levels of stress. Second poll, Holly, what do those results tell us?
Yep, so we'll just do the second poll. You should see that one now on your screen.
Oh, wow, yeah, okay. So, as you said, Holly, even if 500,000 people were suffering, that would be kind of horrible to think about. But the answer is 2 million people. 2 million people suffering from anxiety at the moment. So a lot of people are guessing that it is at least 1 million or more. So, yeah, it's a very big number. If you flick through to my screen, Holly, I'll share the data that we know about this. So what we know is that currently there are 2 million people dealing with diagnosed anxiety in Australia and 1 million people dealing with diagnosed depression. Now, I don't know about people on the line, Holly, but when numbers get that big, I kind of go, well, what's that really look like, or what's that really mean? On your screens now is a picture of the Sydney cricket ground. And so a total of 3 million people, 2 million with anxiety, 1 million with depression, total of 3 million people equals filling the Sydney cricket ground 60 times over. So imagine that cricket ground filled to the brim and then multiply it by 60. That's how many people are impacted right now today by mental health conditions in Australia. Always concerns me when I think about that. Holly, let's show the results of poll number 3, which was in regard to the percentage of Australians who will be diagnosed with a mental health condition at some point in their life. So, yeah, the highest responses there were 40 and 50%, and the 50% is accurate. So, thankfully, for those who voted 60%, it's not that high, not quite. But those that are thinking 25 and 30, it is much more than that. And I think the important thing to remember is that mental health conditions do not discriminate. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you live, what your cultural background is, how much you earn, how much education you've received. None of that matters in terms of mental health conditions. 50% of Australians will go through a mental health condition at some point. And, that's a big issue for us to deal with, both in a society but also in our business world. And Holly, there's one more stat that I want to share that's not a pleasant one, but I absolutely believe that we need to get the facts out in the open so we can start dealing more effectively with all this. The number 8 is the number of people who die by suicide every day in Australia. And that is twice the national road toll. So 8 people a day are dying by their own choosing. And the majority of those people are of working age. So this is why, as businesses, this is a business issue for us to be looking at.
Those are definitely some confronting numbers there, Sandy. And I know you've talked a bit here about the human toll, but also if you are looking at the kind of business world, do you have any kind of stats or more information on the effect on businesses this has?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is thanks to PwC. PricewaterhouseCoopers did some research and published a massive report in 2014. And what that report showed us was $10.9 billion annually is the cost of mental health conditions on business every year. Now, that cost is a result of absenteeism, which we all know what that is, presenteeism, and some people on the line might not be familiar with that. That's That's when someone shows up at work, but they're not fully productive. Perhaps they're suffering from high levels of stress, which has led to troubles with sleep disturbances. It could be their concentration has decreased significantly. And compensation claims. You know, the compensation claims actually, out of these three elements, contribute the least to the $10.9 billion. But of course, when compensation claims are made, an organization's insurance premiums are going to go up. And then if we think about someone who's off work on work-related stress leave, there's a cost of replacing them while they're away, or if they're not replaced, even more stress gets put on the people who are left behind. And, you know, eventually, Holly, what I've seen in so many organizations is people start to vote with their feet. And by that, I mean they leave the company and they take away years and years of knowledge. And this really hits business hard. Labor turnover costs are extraordinarily high. And it impacts significantly on morale and culture within the workplace as well.
Yeah, definitely. We had a few questions coming in there, Sandy. So I think that there's a few people on the line that are a bit worried about this. But people, please do keep those questions coming. But what would you say to people, Sandy, who are a bit concerned about all this?
Yes, well, I'm glad the questions are coming in, and you and I are committed to staying as long as we need to get them all answered. But there's a part of me, Holly, that doesn't want to apologise for shaking up people's thinking about this. There is a business case, there is a legal case, and there is a human case for addressing poor mental health in the workplace. Now, the human case is clear. We're talking about real people here, people like you and me and everyone else on the line. And the weight and worry and grief when someone who you're close with has a mental health condition is absolutely huge. Legally, and we'll come to more details about this shortly, employers are required to look after the mental well-being and mental or psychological safety of their employees, just as they look after their physical safety and well-being. And if we want to talk dollars and cents, i.e. the business case behind this, the PwC report that I mentioned before states unequivocally that on average, a business can expect a return on investment of some $2.30 for every single dollar they invest in mental health initiatives for their staff. Now, the ROI varies from industry to industry and is based also on size of organizations. But I'd like to show people this fantastic resource. There's a website called headsup.org.au. Now, on that website is what's called a return on investment tool. And I've got a couple of screenshots here of how this tool works that I want to show people. When you go to this tool, you can see from this screenshot on the top left side, you can select your industry, and every industry is listed there. For the sake of an example, I've chosen public administration and safety, and you can select the size of your organization. So for this example, I've chosen large. And then at the bottom, just some interesting information for us, how many people work in that industry of that large size organization, how many of them are likely, what percentage are likely to experience mental health conditions this year. And I just took these screenshots the other day. So the PwC research also looked at likelihood and occurrences of mental health conditions in different industries and different sized organizations. And if we go further down the screen, when you use this ROI tool, you'll see this information, and this is where it gets really interesting. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the ROI is $9.01. So for every dollar a public administration or safety, large organization invests, results have shown roughly $9 back. And that's represented by a saving of $20,000 in absenteeism costs, $47,000 in presenteeism, and something near to $2,000 in compensation costs. So the ROI tool is is a fabulous one to get started. The other thing, Holly, I want to mention is that at this website, of course, once you get this information, a lot of organizations think, well, okay, great, let's do something. There is also an action plan tool there that you can go through at headsup.org.au, where you answer a few questions about how mental health issues are seen or dealt with in your workplace. And when you finalize all your answers, it gives you an action plan of initiatives that you could start implementing in your workplace, which is really great to kind of have that guidance there.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like an absolutely fantastic tool. I'd encourage everybody on the line to go and have a look at that this afternoon or tomorrow if you get time. I know, Sandy, in our previous discussions, you've talked about things like mentally healthy workplaces. Can you talk a bit more about what you mean by that?
Yes, yeah, I'd love to. I mean, fundamentally, it's when you read the description of it, you go, yeah, that would be a cool place to work. It's one that has a positive workplace culture, one that promotes employees' well-being, minimizes risks to mental health, and appropriately supports people who have a diagnosed mental health condition, and fundamentally doesn't distinguish between physical and mental safety. In my training with Beyond Blue, Holly, one of the best descriptions I heard was a mentally healthy workplace is one where people look after themselves and they look out for each other.
That sounds like a fantastic place to work.
Yeah, I agree. And what's really good to know, I think, Holly, is it's not actually that hard to achieve if you've already got a pretty good culture as a foundation. In my work with organizations, I've found there's sort of 4 key things that often they need to look at working on more. And the first is making sure they have policies around bullying and harassment, and that those policies are actually followed. They're not just pieces of paper in a drawer that nobody takes note of. Often an organization needs help in looking at how they can create a safe space for people at all levels of the organization to speak up openly and honestly about anything they're concerned about, be it themselves or things that are happening in the workplace or other colleagues in the workplace. Leaders and change agents need to be equipped with really highly developed communication and listening skills, and we need to be brave and start the conversation around mental health conditions to raise awareness and reduce stigma.
Yeah, definitely. Those kind of conversations are crucial. And I know that we've talked quite a lot, I think, so far, Sandy, about the important human toll and also the business toll. But in terms of legal requirements, for people on the line who are wondering what their legal requirements are when it comes to kind of supporting people with mental health, what can you tell us about those?
Yes, I know for people that, oh gosh, legally, I think it's easiest to start with what they don't have to do, because this is what a lot of employers worry about. You do not have to become a clinician or a counselor or someone who can diagnose mental health conditions. You are certainly not responsible for healing or fixing a mental health condition the same way you're not responsible for fixing someone's broken leg, whether they broke it at work or outside of work. And a lot of employers are worried about having to allocate money towards Tai Chi classes or meditation sessions or even paying for massages for their staff. So none of that is required. What is required from a legal point of view is, first of all, that mental health of employees is treated in a similar way to the physical safety, and workplaces have to have regard to that. An employer has an obligation to provide a safe working environment, both physically and psychologically. Employers are not to treat employees less favorably because of a mental health condition. Steps must be taken to ensure that the working environment doesn't cause a mental health condition or worsen an existing one. And this area of reasonable adjustments, oh, Holly, we could talk about this for an hour alone. But if you have an employee who has a mental health condition, legally you are required to make reasonable adjustments to their job role and their workplace situation if it enables them to stay at work and still be productive there. And of course, we have the Disability Discrimination Act. Employers must make reasonable adjustments to support people with disabilities, which includes mental health condition. But if we go back to this key idea, which is employer has an obligation to provide a safe working environment to all employees, the things I'd encourage people on the line to consider is, what are the risks to mental safety? What reduces mental safety for people? Well, I've already mentioned bullying and harassment, high demand jobs, and particularly where we seem to be quite asking one person to do the jobs that two people used to do, sort of thing, where people have low control over their jobs and how they do it. Harassment is an issue. Low support, where people can't find the resources, be they physical or people resources, to get information about help in doing their job. A lot of times people aren't clear what their role is and what the expectations of them are. Definitely unresolved conflict, these issues that we just sweep under the rug and hope disappear, is a risk to mental safety. Poor management of change, where the communication lines aren't good. And finally, in situations where there's low recognition and reward, and that doesn't mean people get pay rises or whatever, but where we're just so busy doing the work, Holly, that we're not stopping even just to say thank you to someone.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, I hope that people that are on the line today, we've already started to, kind of prod the thinking about how they can manage people's mental well-being in their workplace. But if we did have people who are on the line that actually want to go away and, start implementing a program, I think it can be quite overwhelming. So do you have any advice on where to start?
Well, like most things, Holly, it's good to start at the top. I really think the entire senior leadership team needs to take ownership of something like this, and to do that they need to be informed, and they need to understand why this is something that is business critical.
I mean, by informed, do you mean sort of knowing the things that we talked about today?
Yes, absolutely, and a few more things. Things like being able to recognize the signs of possible mental health conditions, being able to have a conversation with someone you're concerned about, and taking those steps to reduce the stigma and make it okay for someone to put their hand up and say that they're struggling. We need to help people move from their fear of the invisible and what they don't fully understand. I think it's sometimes because physical issues we can see, the mental issues we can't, the mental challenges people are dealing with. And because of that, we don't understand them and we can fear them. And in fact, it's really important for people on the line to understand that they don't need to understand a mental health condition or even understand what may have caused it in order to support someone. In order to support someone, the primary thing is for us to remove our judgment about what they're going through. Holly, I often say to people, if someone's on crutches or have their arm in a brace, it's clear that they might need some support. And sometimes when I'm presenting on this subject, I arrive at the venue with my leg in a brace. And of course, people come over and say, oh, can I carry something for you? And do you want a cup of tea? And when I start my presentation, I thank them for all the concern they've shown. And I slowly remove the leg brace as I say that I'm pleased to tell them there's actually nothing wrong with my leg. But how would they know if I was dealing with anxiety or depression? Because, people who are dealing with mental health conditions don't necessarily show it all the time. Often they are capable of going to work and being very productive, and they still could use some support.
That's definitely food for thought, the leg brace story there, Sandy. It's right. You'd never start or come into someone's kind of training course and ask them if they're okay, apart from anything than a kind of physical thing you can see. So thanks for kind of sharing that. It's definitely prodded my thoughts as well. There's so many initiatives out there at the moment, around mental health, which is obviously fantastic. What's your thoughts on the Are You OK Day?
Look, I love Are You OK Day, in that it keeps the conversation at top of mind for people. And it's been great to raise awareness about mental health conditions. But sadly, I think it's done little in terms of actually helping people to open up So Holly, you know, we've got this fourth poll. I think it'd be great to launch it now. Find out what people on the line think about this scenario. So you can see in this poll, the scenario we're proposing is that you are actually not okay. You're highly stressed, you're very aware that you're exhausted, you're not sleeping well, your eating patterns have changed. And a colleague of yours at work who you're not particularly close to asks if you're okay. So what's your most likely response of those that we've offered there? Let's just give people maximum 30 seconds to respond, Holly, because I'm very aware of our time and we're starting to run out of it very quickly here. So Holly, you can see the results coming in. Up to you to call it when you've got enough there or the majority, and then share those results straight away. Are you there, Holly? Hello, Holly.
We'll close that poll now.
Okay, great. So show the results straight away, Holly. Let's see what we've got. Oh, wow. I find it sad, and I find it to be expected. 4% of the people on the line, and gosh, we've got several hundred on the line today, not so great, really, I'm struggling. The vast majority would just say good, thanks, or yeah, a bit on my mind, but I'm okay. So here's why just saying are you okay isn't enough. You can close that poll now, Holly, if you like.
Yeah, it's I imagine a lot of people, Sandy, you know, might not really ask in the first place, as they don't really know what to say if someone comes back and says, you know what, actually, you know, I'm not so great.
Yeah, exactly. And if you do ask because you are concerned and they say they're fine, everyone on the line, I would encourage us to keep the conversation going. And by that I mean we can say things like, oh, all right, well, I'm glad you're feeling fine. The reason I am concerned is I've noticed you just eat lunch at your desk a lot, and you used to come to the staff room with all of us, or I noticed you haven't come to Friday night drinks for several weeks, or you know, any kind of examples you can give them that explain why you're concerned, and then let them know that you're available. And all I mean by that is, after you've given your examples of, yeah, I've noticed that you go into the toilet a lot more often, or you get drinking a lot more coffee. Look, I'm concerned about you, and I'm here if you want to talk at any stage. And look, is it okay with you if I just touch base with you again next week? You know, maybe we could have a cup of morning tea together, or go for a walk at lunchtime together. Yeah, just simple things like that, Holly.
Yeah, I think, well, me personally, sometimes I feel that that's a bit scary. You know, I don't want to feel like I'm kind of intruding or making them angry. What would you kind of say to that, to people who are worried about kind of intruding on people?
Yeah. Well, look, there's always a chance that that might happen. So I can't guarantee it won't. But I was taught by one of my mentors years ago to keep my attention on my intention. And by that I mean, your intention is not to judge them. Your intention is to want to help. So keep your focus on that wanting to help them. And everything in your body language and your tone of voice and everything will communicate that to a person. I mean, I honestly believe, and I can assure everyone, that from my experience in checking in with people and saying, well, here's why I'm concerned, the most common reaction I get is, look, I'm not even sure what to call it, Holly, whether it's relief or gratitude, but it's more like, oh my goodness, somebody's shown they definitely care about me. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to immediately open up, but it does mean a seed has been planted. And that's the most important thing. Keep our attention on our intention to help.
Yeah, Sandy, I think that's a really good kind of key takeaway point there, to keep the attention on intention. I guess just to finish things off, Sandy, and everyone, please do continue to use the questions button. We'll get to those very, very soon. But I know you are so passionate, about supporting people and doing that long term. So, I mean, what's available for people wanting a bit more kind of information or support on this?
Oh, thank you for asking. Let me bring some resources up on the screen for people to jot down. The first one is headsup.org. Now, that was the website I mentioned before, where you've got the ROI tool and the action planning tool. It would take me a half hour just to tell you what's available there. The emphasis or focus of Heads Up is for organizations. Now, there is information there for individuals as well, but from an organizational business point of view, that's your number one go-to. From a more personal point of view, beyondblue.org.au, an organization very close to my heart. I have put the phone number there. A lot of people know about Lifeline, which I'll bring up that one as well, the Lifeline number, which is a 24/7 number. Beyond Blue's number is also 24/7. So if for any reason you can't get through on Lifeline or whatever, I think the key difference between Beyond Blue and Lifeline is definitely there. I mean, they're both there for emergencies and potential suicide situations. Beyond Blue, though, they're there for that and everything else, particularly. You might want to talk about, how do I have a conversation with someone I'm concerned about? That line's available 24/7. People can also do online chats if they don't feel like talking from 3 o'clock to midnight, 7 days a week. And obviously they respond to emails definitely within 24 hours. And of course, there's one more thing, Holly, which I'm very, very excited about, and that is the Managing Workplace Mental Health program that we are finalizing right now to run next year. It will provide practical tools for executives, managers, leaders to minimize risks and meet legal obligations. And I'm just going to bring up here on the screen, it is a one-day program. We originally only scheduled dates for Melbourne, the date for Melbourne, but as a result of the invitation of this webinar being sent out, we've had demand in Brisbane and Sydney too. So come on, Perth, Darwin, Canberra, we will run this anyway. The demand is for it. And look, I know that neither you or I want to do a big sales pitch or anything, Holly, but there is the web link there at the end on the screen now. You want to talk about the next couple of slides too before we sign off?
Yeah, definitely. If you want to bring up the next couple of slides. We're obviously really grateful for everyone being on the line and kind of getting quite involved with this. So we'd like to offer anyone on the line a discount if you do want to either send yourself or anyone from your organisation. We will later on bring up some contact details on how you can contact us. But don't worry, we'll be sending you an email to everybody on the line, just providing you with more information about how you can register, how you can contact us, how you can ask any questions that you may have, and we'll kind of address those. So please do send them through. The discount code, our contact information is on the line. You can email us at training@informa.com.au. Sandy mentioned, obviously, we're running those public programs in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. We would love to open them up, obviously, to other areas, or if you would like to run this course in-house and you want to kind of customize the program or have it in a more private environment, we can definitely kind of customize some training for groups. So again, get in touch with us, we'll have a chat, and we can always see what we can do for you in that space. So yeah, thanks again. Please do get in touch and look out for the email that we'll send as a follow-up. But Sandy, it'd be great to get some Q&A now, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I have seen some of the ones that come through, but some of them have been so fast, and I've been focusing on making sense while I talk that I'll let you drive the questions.
I will.
And I'll bring my web. Can we bring our webcams back on? Oh, you have already. Well done, you. There you go.
So let's get started. And everyone, please do continue to put the questions through. We're still live with questions. So the first one is, do you know about how Australian statistics compare to worldwide?
Good question. My honest answer is I don't specifically know how they compare, because I've been so focused on knowing the Australian stats really well. I know Beyond Blue has told me that it's comparable to other sort of English-speaking Western cultures. One of the things I can share is that those statistics are based on Australia-wide generally. The incidence of mental health conditions in regional and rural areas of the country is disproportional to the population. And there's perhaps many reasons for that. I think one that comes to mind often is in regional areas, small communities, a lot of people know each other, and so people are much more hesitant to open up about any mental health struggles they're having, because it'll be around town in seconds, everybody will know about it. And also the availability of help and resources, the demand for help in the mental health space exceeds the supply of that help, sadly.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? That mentality in cities where people unfortunately don't talk to each other as much as they used to. Let's look at the next one. So we've got here, would you have any advice for someone who has a mental health condition who supervises staff, and his condition is now starting to cause stress to the staff that he manages?
Okay. Yes, the first thing is there's a lot of things to think about here, because if someone has a mental health condition, they have the right to privacy about that. So there is no legal requirement for them to divulge to anyone in the workplace, including their supervisor or manager. So I'm assuming from the question the supervisor is aware, that the employee has divulged to them. So I would talk to them privately and say, look, assuming that the employee doesn't want to know about their condition, then the supervisor talks to the employee and says, look, I am going to maintain confidentiality around your mental health condition, and we need to look at how some things about your condition are impacting other employees here. I'd start like that. But the employers need to be aware that there will be a trial if they tell others without the permission about the mental health condition, without the permission of the employee.
Yeah, and that's crucial, isn't it? Getting that kind of permission and not kind of going behind anyone's back with that one.
Yeah.
So we've got another one here as well that says, what is your opinion? I think this is a great one. What is your opinion on workplaces having access to a trained mental health provider or first aider?
Oh, I love the question. Yes. It's not a legal requirement yet, but it's becoming kind of an unwritten ethical requirement that workplaces have, the same way they have people who are trained in physical, the normal sort of first aid, if you like, CPR and stuff, that we have people who are trained in mental health first aid, i.e., how do I deal with someone who's having a panic attack or an anxiety attack? How do I deal with someone who seems to suddenly be acting in a paranoid kind of fashion? Like, as you said at the start, I've done that course, Holly, and as much as I knew already from my experience of mental health conditions and my training with Beyond Blue, I learned heaps, and I feel much confident now in dealing with a mental health crisis that may come about when I'm around. So highly recommend it.
Perfect. We've actually had a few people ask that question as well, just scrolling through. So thank you so much for answering that one. There's somebody that's asked for a bit more clarity around when you were talking about the reasonable adjustments with the legal obligations. They've put, can you please provide some examples of what is considered reasonable?
Okay, yeah, good question. And this is something, again, not wanting to sound like a sales pitch, but we go into great depth about this on the one-day program. So we'll take a hypothetical example here. Let's suppose someone is suffering from anxiety. They can perform the fundamental core basic requirements of their role. They find noise very stressful. So because anxiety is often triggered and exacerbated with noise. So it might be that you relocate their desk at work to the quietest corner in the open office plan. It might be that you make arrangements around them being able to work in a meeting room for part of the day. It might be that maybe they could work from home for some of the time. It might be that and again, it gets back to the confidentiality around their condition, because if the other staff don't know about the condition, then you've got to look at what adjustments can be made without making people go, well, what's going on there, sort of thing. Because I'm thinking, the person could wear earplugs, or like noise deafening earplugs, or they could wear earplugs like what I've got on, as if they're listening to music during the day. Or if staff are aware, and the culture's good, you can talk about, hey guys, we've decided we're going to keep the noise down a bit here, or particularly between this hour and that hour, or we're not going to play music, background music, or whatever. So all of those are reasonable adjustments.
Okay, perfect. It's good to know a few kind of nuggets of what people can do. We've got another one here that says, what defines mental health conditions, and do we need to have a clinical diagnosis?
Well, and the person might want to write something in the question pane, because when you say, do we need a clinical diagnosis, we as an employer, like I need to know kind of where that's coming from to give an answer. What do I want to say? Sorry, what was the first part of the question, Lee?
Yeah, I think they meant in terms of defining it. So as an organisation, do they need to have a clinical diagnosis before they're liable to make reasonable adjustments? What I'm interpreting it as.
Part of me is, I understand the question, and I'm kind of sad, because if we need a clinical diagnosis in order to be willing, as an employer, if we need that clinical diagnosis in order to be willing to make reasonable adjustments, look, this is just my personal opinion, Holly, I find that a bit sad. Because if someone's struggling, they may not be clinically diagnosed as depressed, anxious, phobic, whatever, but they're still struggling. And if they've had the guts and courage to tell you that, then I'd talk about, well, how can we support you in this? So you don't have to have a clinical diagnosis to acknowledge that someone's struggling or offer support to them. I'm not a clinician. I cannot diagnose. I certainly know me well enough because of my experience through mental health conditions. I know the signals in me if I've got anxiety creeping up or depression creeping up or whatever. So I can diagnose me, is what I'm saying, because I know what it's like for me.
Yeah,
and it is something that's important. It sort of relates to the question too. I would urge people on the line to let go of the mindset of feeling if you are struggling or you're concerned about something, we don't have to go to a GP. Often we say, oh, should I tell them to go to see their GP? The most important thing is they go to a health professional they trust. Because if they trust the health professional, they'll open up more. And their trusted health professional might be a naturopath, might be an osteopath, it might be I don't know what, but you don't have to, I urge people not to say just go see your GP, because there's a lot of GPs around who maybe don't know too much about this. Now, mind you, the naturopath might not either, but for someone to open up, they've got to be with someone they trust.
Yeah, definitely. And whether that's a healthcare professional or a workplace person, that's still true.
Yeah.
So you may or may not know the answer to this one, Sandy, in terms of the full kind of legal ramifications of it. But they've asked, can you be sacked for taking time off work after you've exhausted all your leave and you're still not ready to return?
I'm thinking. The answer is no, but I'm thinking, are there any situations where that could be the case? highly unlikely. All right? You cannot be sacked because you have a mental health condition. Now, in a case like this, though, Holly, there would need to be a clinical diagnosis. All right. So
Yeah.
if somebody got sacked and well, that's not fair if you're working there, it needs to be a clinical diagnosis that can show us evidence.
Okay, can you just repeat that last bit, Sandy? I think the line went a little wobbly there. If you can repeat the last 10 seconds or so.
Sorry, I've just turned up webcams because that's why it went a bit wobbly. You cannot be fired because you have a mental health condition, full stop. So whether or not you've used all, some, none of your sick leave or annual leave or special leave or whatever kind of leave you might be entitled to, you cannot be fired because of a mental health condition.
Okay, good to know. It's important to know that people obviously do need that clinical diagnosis there, but that's good to know. So I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that in case it came to, the argy-bargy of, heaven forbid, Fair Work Commission, and because it's under the discrimination law that I mentioned before. Yeah,
wonderful. So yeah, we've also got some questions here around the PwC research you mentioned earlier. So when you were talking about the 10.9 billion cost and also the 8 suicides per day, is that just in Australia or is that worldwide?
Australia.
Wow, so that's just Australia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which kind of makes them more frightening.
Yeah. So another question here, I think it's a good one. It's given a kind of situational example. They've put, if in a factory area and a person has anxiety and does not like noise, but does not have skills to work in an office, how can an employer assist the person?
Well, again, remember privacy is key here. You have to look at, first of all, are they willing to and comfortable with the other employees knowing they have anxiety? If that can be created, that safety for them, then you've got a lot more options in that you've got things like, the earplugs or listening to music or noise deafening, headsets like you have on airplanes and stuff. But all of that's going to be very visible to other employees. So the employee needs to feel comfortable that that's going to be known why they're wearing them. The other thing you could look at is having conversation around sort of maximum duration of noise that they can tolerate before perhaps having a 2-minute break where they walk off the factory floor to the canteen or to the toilet or whatever. Now, again, we're getting into grey area here because that's going to impact other employees and going, well, how come, Fred can have so many toilet breaks during the day and I can't, kind of thing. So it's at this point where I'd say I would encourage the person asking this question to talk to their lawyers, talk to their company lawyers, and find out what is and isn't possible.
Okay, perfect. I've got one more here that I'm going to go through. So if anyone does have any last minute questions, please do kind of type them into us now.
And I got to say, Holly, I'm just thrilled with all these questions and that people stayed with us this long, because I know we've gone longer than we said we would, but it says something really positive and affirming about all the people who are still on the line. So thanks for staying. Yeah. Sorry, Holly, back to you.
No, you're right. So good. So yeah, someone's put here, I'm worried about a particular person within my organization, but what if they just don't want to talk about it?
Well, in the end, it is like you can lead the horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. All you can do is be there and keep being there. And I don't mean nagging them every 5 minutes at work or whatever, but even saying to them, look, I respect your right to not talk about it, and I'm still becoming increasingly concerned. It will be really important for you to be able to give a few examples about what behavior you're noticing that's causing you to be concerned. You could even get to the point where you say, look, you don't have to talk to me. I'd really like to know that you're talking to someone, though. Is there anyone here at work or outside of work that you feel comfortable enough with, who you trust, who you could start to open up with, whether that's a health professional that you go to semi-regularly, or, you know, a friend in your community or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so, and then, and I love the fact that this person really wants to support, and you need to also watch that you don't end up feeling responsible for this person, because you can't be. You can only be there. You can only offer the support. You can give them the Beyond Blue phone number. Tell them about the Beyond Blue website. Even offer to sit down and look at the website with them. They're all things you could try.
Yeah, as you said, Sandy, it's so great that, you know, at least we have people out there who do want to care and do want to try and at least want to let people know they're there for them. So it's a fantastic bit of insight. And I guess just to kind of round things off for everyone still on the line with us, this isn't so much a question we've had, but a few of you have mentioned that you might have joined a bit late and you'd like the presentation. And we will be sharing it, so please do kind of look out for an email. We'll send through the presentation in the next couple of days or early next week. And yeah, so Sandy, thank you so much for all your insights, you know, your Q&A with us, and kind of sharing what I think for a lot of people can be a really kind of difficult topic to be across. And again, for everyone on the line, questions, thanks for your kind of interactivity and getting involved with us today. Any queries or questions you have, please do continue to communicate with us. As I said, our email is training@informa.com.au, and we'd love to hear from you guys, any queries or questions you have around our programs or how we kind of work with Sandy. So yeah, have a wonderful afternoon, and we hope to speak with a lot of you again soon.
Can I say one more? I want to say one more thing, Holly, and that is, first of all, I don't know about it, the webcam, my webcam seems to be on and off, and I haven't been able to get it to stay consistently on. So apologies to those that have been wondering what's wrong with the camera. But yeah, there you go. I tried my end. Secondly, a final thought for everybody, including you and I, Holly, is to remember to always look after ourselves and look out for each other. Thanks for the opportunity to do this, Holly, with you guys. You know, I love working with Informa, and thanks to everyone on the line for making this a priority in your life. I sincerely hope you're glad you did. So it's bye from Sandy.
Thanks, Source. Bye from Holly as well.